Now we're going to do solving by elimination, but we're not going to substitute. In a case where you don't have a variable by itself, you want to be able to eliminate one of the variables without substituting. So the method I use is the multiplication method. And all we do is we're going to multiply by taking the bottom front number and putting it to the top. And we're taking the top number and putting it to the bottom, whatever it may be, 4 and 2, and change one of them signs. So that was a 4 and that was a 2, but I'm going to make one of them negative. And so now I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to distribute. This times this is a negative 8x. Negative 2 times a negative 3 is a positive 6y. And a negative 2 times 22 is positive 44. Then I'm going to multiply the bottom one by 4. So I'm going to get 8x. And I'm going to multiply this by 12. 4 times 3 is 12. And then 4 times 16 is 264. After you multiply, you're always going to then add. So I'm going to add. By doing that, these two will always cancel out because they're opposite signs. So it's always going to go to 0. So I'm just going to add the y's, which will be 18y. And when I add, I'm going to get 8 and a 108. So then I'm going to divide. So to get my final answer, so I divide by 18. Divide by 18. So y equals 6. So once we have one letter, then all we need to do then is substitute this back into either equation and get the other letter. So I'm going to put it I'm just going to put in the first equation. So I'm going to have 4x minus 3, and I'm going to put the 6 for the y, negative 22, and I'm going to solve now. So 4x minus 18 equals negative 22. I'm going to add 18 to both sides. I get a negative 4x, so x equals a negative 1. So my answer is negative 1, 6. So I've solved by eliminating the x values by doing multiplication. So let's continue to go through that same process again. So anytime I don't have any variables by themselves, I'm going to go ahead and just multiply by whatever that front number is, 4, and whatever that top number is, 6, and I'm going to make one of them change sign, so that becomes a negative 4. So when I multiply, I'm going to get negative 24x, 20y, and negative 4 times 8, negative 8 is 32. And then 6 times 4 is 24x. 6 times negative 5 is a negative 30y. And 6 times a negative 12 is a negative 172. So I've multiplied, and so I'm always going to add then. These two will always cancel out because they're opposites. And then when I add here, I'm going to get a negative 10y. And I'm going to get a negative, looks like 40. So y will equal 4. So once I have one letter, I can then substitute that back into our equation, either one, but I'll do the top one. So 6x minus 5 times 4 equals negative 8. So 6x minus 20 equals negative 8. Add 20 to both sides. I get 12, and so x equals 2. So my answer is 2, 4. Last type of problem, let's look at this last one over here. So now if we look, I already have the front numbers the same. So since they're already the same, I can just go ahead and add. So if I just add, that automatically goes to 0, and I get negative 3y equals 6. And if I divide, I get negative 2. So once I get one's letter, I can substitute back in. So 2x minus 9, negative 2, 34. And so 2x plus 18 equals 34. Subtract 18 from both sides. I get 16 equals 2x, so x equals 8. And so my answer is 8, negative 2. So if you recognize it right off, now if you look back at this last problem, the one did in red, before we ever did the multiplication, you might have noticed that the y's would cancel. And you can do it that way and just go ahead and add. But once you have the numbers the same and they're opposite, you can just add. But if you don't notice it, you'll still get the same answer just by multiplying by like this negative 2 and this positive 4, which will work just the same.